Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with a movie star, or at least TV star, Laura Morby. How you doing, Laura?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So you're going to be a star of a premiere show on A&E, October 2nd premiere at noon. And what is it called?
Triple digit flip.
And a little side note, folks, Laura Morby gets credit for the title, but don't tell anyone. Shh.
I know. Oh, yeah.
It's a secret. Hey, Laura, one of the things I want to talk about is we spend a lot of time talking about investors. That's really what we do. But I want to take a step back and talk about owner occupants and specifically first-time home buyers, right? I think, again, the only reason my family was able to survive kind of the rough 80s and 90s is my father was the sole breadwinner, and he was unemployed a lot, as I remember, which was very hard financially, was because we owned a home. Now, we were definitely threatened from foreclosures and all of those things. We were actually scheduled, I think I seem to recall one time we were like 2 days away from being, locked out or whatever it was called. That said, that house was what allowed us to kind of survive, right? Because it appreciated, they can go back and get loans, all of those things. So I just want to talk about home ownership, first-time homeowners getting on the property ladder. I think a lot of people think it's harder than it is, and they think it takes more money. There's a lot of programs to do it. This generation also has house hacking, which is something that probably has been done forever, but never really talked about. You can even do roommates if you want.
Yep.
So I just want to talk about that. Just, it doesn't take as much money as you think it does. So what do you think about all that?
Oh my gosh. I think that this is probably one of the things I've struggled with the most, because I started in 2009, 2008, and I used to be begging people that I knew. I was 22 years old. A lot of my friends were, graduated with an undergrad, had, a signing bonus after an internship. They've got, their first real corporate America job. And they were more comfortable getting engaged and buying a brand new car than they were buying a house. And I kept telling them, I was like, interest rates are fantastic. Property values are like dirt cheap. Yeah. Dirt cheap.
Literally dirt cheap.
Yeah. Like you can't even build a house for what they're going for.
Shoot, the lot's worth more than the price sometimes.
100%. And so they didn't do anything. And then now, however many years later, 15 years later, almost, I have a lot of friends and family who are like, I wish I would have bought like 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, hindsight is 2020, as they say, but it was not for lack of me trying. So I think the first thing that's scary is people are afraid of getting rejected, or like, it's almost like you feel like you're going to get in trouble by talking to like a mortgage lender. Like I know most, millennials, who I guess are like the ones that are coming up to like really be the ones that are buying property, are the ones that are like, I don't know what my credit score is. A lot of them.
I have a credit score. What is that?
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's just very interesting. Obviously the older millennials who are watching this, 1983 to, 1990 are probably like, yeah, I know what my credit score is, lady. But I'm talking my last 15 years of experience. So, and a lot of us had a hard time, when we were graduating college, it was in the middle of a recession, and a lot of people had a hard time finding a job because you couldn't find a job because they wanted you to have experience, but you can't get experience unless you can get a job. And it was just this whole thing. Yeah. And so, I'm not saying that it was easy to like get started in adulthood by any means. But I think the main fear that I continually ran into with first-time home buyers is, I don't want to talk to a lender. They're going to decline me. And then they just wouldn't. And so I started telling people, I'm like, well, at least talk to them, because number one, you could be pleasantly surprised. And number two, you could, if it's a no, they'll tell you what you need to do to become a yes. So if it's something as easy as everything is great, you just need to be at your current job field of, your profession for 2 years. That's easy as long as you keep going on this path, in 8 more months, when you reach your 2-year mark at your job, you can qualify.
Yep.
Or on like a worst case scenario, you need credit repair, do
Right.
credit repair. And that's so funny that like people don't believe in credit repair. Credit repair actually works incredibly well.
Mhm.
If you hire the right company. And that's what mortgage lenders do. They have a good, referral partner that is credit repair. They can tell you what to do. And so that sometimes helped people to be like, okay, it's not going to be like, no, you suck. You're a broke, piece of crap. Like, get out of here. But it was actually going to be productive, and it was going to have like a tangible solution attached to it. I think that pushed a lot of people over. And then the other thing I think too is people are like, well, if I buy a house, I'm going to have like $50,000
Exactly.
down payment. And that's like a prevailing thought too, is like, I'll never be able to be a homeowner because I'll never have a down payment. I don't make that much money. I didn't come from a family that can give that to me, type of thing.
Yeah.
And as you and I both know, and as I've seen, I've even seen buyers get their earnest money back plus $600. And so like all you're really looking at paying for is like a home inspection and appraisal. And if you like, that's less than what it costs to move into a rental house.
Yeah.
In a rental house, you have to put up a security deposit. If you've got a pet deposit, perhaps a cleaning deposit,
First month
month of rent. Like you're looking at like whatever house you're looking at, just double that monthly rent plus, $500 in miscellaneous deposits and
moving and
yeah. So if you're looking at a $2,000 a month rental, you can expect to probably pay $4,500 to move in. And so if you're going to go buy a house, and you can do a down payment assistance program, and all you have to pay for is your appraisal, $500, home inspection, $500.
Yeah.
And then you're a homeowner.
Yeah. This is a big one for me because I'm trying to look at the entire picture, right? So first and foremost, a lot of the millennials, my daughter's a millennial. She was in high school when the Great Recession happened. So a lot of them are scarred, not necessarily by them, but by their parents or their friends' parents' experience. A lot of people got into housing that they didn't really qualify for and ended up losing it, which leaves scars. And nobody really digs in. All they know is, hey, the sheriff showed up or the bank changed the locks or whatever it is. And it was rough. It was hard. Should never have happened.
Right.
They don't know that, oh, by the way, they had a liar loan and they said they made 400 grand when they made 40 grand. And they don't know the deeper picture, but so that scars them. Then, when people talk about real estate, you're right. A lot of people think it takes tens, 20s, $50,000 to buy a home, right? People hear it takes 20%. People, I can't tell you how many homeowners I've asked over the years, how much does it take to get in? And they've said somewhere between 10 and 20%.
Yeah.
Investors, sure, but I'm talking homeowners here, right? The average first-time homeowner, I did this Google search the other day, is 6%.
Yeah.
So if that's average, that means there's a lot of people doing less than 6%, right? That's just how this math works because it's average.
Yep.
And I've been lucky enough on this YouTube channel. I've interviewed, so I just interviewed Todd Baldwin, who's 29. He got his first house in Seattle when he was 23. He got into a $500,000 house with 19 grand. He house hacked. He didn't even really house hack. He room hacked, right? He had 5 roommates.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, he lived for free. And in Todd's case, he just sold it, right? We were talking the other day on the day of closing, and he walked away with a check for over $300,000. Again, he put in 19.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, because he had roommates the entire time, he made $25,000 a year and lived for free.
Beautiful.
What's wrong with this, right, folks? There's ways to get on the property ladder, and his life will be fundamentally changed forever because he was able to save that $19,000.
Insane. And that's one of the crazy things too, is like, when Pace and I were first starting to think about like doing rentals as like an investment strategy. And that's crazy to talk about because it's like, why wouldn't you, but back then we were like, should we not? And so we talked to a really big investor here who has a ton of rental properties, and I went and sat down with him and I had lunch with him. And I was like, so how did you get started? Because that's like the hardest thing is
Yeah.
making that first step. And he was like, I worked at a Wendy's. Like he worked at a Wendy's, like at the window.
Not
And
the owner of the Wendy's. He worked at the
No.
Wendy's, not the franchise owner.
And so he decided to go, he went FHA 3.5% down. He saved that up for like a year. He does not have a wealthy family, and obviously he's not wealthy.
Mhm.
And, he bought the house and then he immediately moved in roommates. And so
Yeah.
he did the same thing. He lived for free. He
Yeah.
made a little bit of money. And he did that for like 10 years. Like he worked at Wendy's. He ended up being like the manager of Wendy's after like 10 years,
Mhm.
lived in the same house with the same roommates. And then he was like, something switched in his head and he was like, why don't I do this again?
Yeah, exactly. I'm very simple. If
Yeah.
it works once, I'm doing it again. That's
Yeah,
very
but-
simple.
Like he's not even like someone who had anybody to coach him
Yeah.
or like YouTube around at that time to
Right.
think about stuff like this. And he's working in a fast food joint. So the people that he's, surrounded with
Yeah.
don't think like this. So these aren't conversations that come up for him.
Mhm.
And it took him like 10 years to be like, I should buy a second.
Mm.
And so he bought a second house and moved out of that first house, moved into the other one. And he then, the per room thing just really knocked it out of the park for him.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And so he still continues to do per room.
Wow.
And he did per room at his new house. And then he met a woman and they moved into her house and got married. And then he had 2 houses that were per room.
Mm.
And then he told her like, hey, we should buy, a house, like a little bit nicer of a house, we're married now. And so they went and bought, their, first house together as a married couple, and they turned her house into a per room.
Wow.
And so now it just has continued like that for him. And he makes wonderful money.
I'm
and,
sure. Yeah. Per
and
room.
it's funny. It's like anybody who's listening to this, who is like, I make minimum wage and I don't have a dollar in my savings. And I don't know anybody who owns property. My parents don't even own their house. I work in fast food. Like you can do it too. Like if he can do it, you can do it. And yeah, like FHA is made for first time home buyers. That
Absolutely.
3.5% down is for you,
Absolutely.
so,
Yeah.
and worst case scenario, or I should say best case scenario, is down payment assistance. And I think people also think down payment assistance, when they first hear that, they're like, oh, it's a scam, or we're going to have to pay it all back. And if you stay there, like for a couple years, I forget what the rule is.
Mhm.
It's a grant. It's
Yeah,
free
it's
money
forgivable.
from the government. It's like, it's nothing you have to pay back. So that will 100% cover your down payment, your loan costs, your title
Mhm.
costs, and you could walk into the house paying nothing. So, or getting a check for $600 at the closing table, like they're paying you.
Yeah.
Crazy. So things like that exist. And so all I can say is don't be afraid to go talk to a lender. Again,
Yeah.
best case scenario, you're approved. Worst case scenario,
Yeah.
they say you're not, but
You,
here's what you need.
learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And again, one of the things that I'm getting really big on is time in the market is better than timing the market. I'm guessing this individual who started with roommates 10 years at Wendy's, at some point, if he wanted to, he can go back and refi that, generating more capital, still having cash flow, and then go buy more and go buy more.
Yeah.
And just kind of the last story, one of my experts on Tuesdays, he's a 9th grade dropout. So talk about being behind the 8 ball.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. And, his treat used to be the dollar menu at McDonald's. Right. So he's 14 years old, dropped out of high school, and he house hacked a duplex for the first deal.
There you go.
First time. And, 203K loans. People don't know this, right? Meet Kevin on YouTube. He and his wife started with a 203K loan. It's just, there's lots of ways to get out there. If your circle of influence isn't talking about this stuff, get a new circle, because getting on the property ladder, there's ways to do it for a lot less money than most of you think. And like you said, go ask a mortgage broker. And if they say no, it's okay. It's not really no, it's not yet.
Yes, not yet.
Not yet. It's never really no.
Here's what you need to do to make it a yes.
Exactly. So Laura, do me a favor one more time. Tell us when the show's going to premiere and what's your IG channel.
Yeah, my Instagram is Laura Morby, no spaces, and the show. So sorry. Pregnant lady, hiccups. The show is premiering Saturday, October 2nd at noon on A&E.
And do us a favor, folk, watch it live and snap a photo when Laura is on TV and send it to her IG channel, tag her, and she'll send you an autographed book from the folks on the show with her. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.